Priti Patel, thank you so much for joining us today. I can only imagine how busy you are at this time, but we're very appreciative of you taking some time out to join us for Diwali Fest, iGlobal's Diwali Fest today. I hope your day has started off well, and I hope that you're starting to get into the Diwali mood. And I wanted to kick off by asking you a few questions to get to know a little bit about the behind the scenes, Priti Patel, if that's all right. So I'm going to kick off by asking you a little bit about your younger days. So when you're at home as a young Priti Patel living at home with the parents, what was Diwali like for you then? What were your early Diwali memories?
Well, look, first of all, and I should say happy Diwali as well to everybody. It's really lovely to be able to join you and to be part of this, because Diwali for us all is going to be very different this year, and not in a bad way. It can be really good because we've learned to engage and do things so differently. But you've asked me a really important question about Diwali in my younger days, already making me sound old and past it, but that's another issue. Diwali for all of us, I think, has always centered around our families. So obviously mum and dad, but actually extended families. So I grew up very much with my mum and dad and my sister. I did not have my grandparents living with me. My family, as most people will know, are based around the world and still are, although I have a lot of family in the UK. But Diwali as a child consisted of two things, both of which were exciting, always family. But I have a mussy in America. And as a kid, she would just send over the most coolest things for my sister and myself, basically, which, knew would be really exciting, something you couldn't get here. And it was just the joy of it all, basically. So giving gifts, which is central to Diwali and how we celebrate culturally, but also our connections with each other. And then just colour. Our home was always full of colour and vibrancy. Even though my mum and dad are at home right now and all, their kids have flown the nest, so to speak, there is always vibrancy and colour in the Patel household. And that's always been associated. My memories of Diwali growing up was very much about that. And I actually think that's very conventional and very traditional. I think that's at the centre of, the spirit of Diwali and the values that we all share.
And what about food? Is that a big deal in the Patel household around Diwali time?
Of course. You never ask questions like that. Okay. Whoever you are, wherever you go, you come. My household, all Indian households, right? You come over. You don't just stay for tea. You stay for dinner. You stay for everything, always. And of course, with that, Indian sweets. Now, I am not a big Indian sweet person.
Right.
My dad is. And so, that's the one thing still, even though I left home a long time ago, just buying boxes of burfi for my dad is always the key thing, at Diwali time.
Okay, but if you had to pick your favourite mithai, what would it be?
It would be something that's full of sugar, obviously. So it would be jalebi, because that's just, well, there are no words for it because it's just so nice.
Indescribable. Yeah. So what does Diwali this year look like for you in the Patel household? How will you be celebrating this year?
Well, it's not as happy or exciting, I should say, because we have these new measures because of COVID. So I won't get to see my mum and dad, which is, not great at all. Normally I'd go to the mandir as well. I'd go to Neasden along with a few other people. Thousands of people go to Neasden every single year. And that's amazing. I mean, that's just so uplifting. That is just so uplifting in so many ways. And also just to see all ages coming together to celebrate Diwali. So it's not going to be like that this year. That's just a fact. We have to not just acknowledge that, but there are other ways in which we can celebrate. So look, online, this is one of the mediums that we will be doing to be part of Diwali and share Diwali. I think, this will be very much shared household to household online. The mandir, I have to say, have been amazing, I think, in everything that they've been doing online. And so from a personal perspective, I doubt it'll be as vibrant and exciting because I'm working, I'm pretty much working 24/7 as well. So, you know, but that's fine. That is fine, because for us, it's very much about the spirit of Diwali and ensuring that our loved ones are fine and, you know, looking after those that need some help and support at this particular time. And obviously just being there for people.
How does our Home Secretary get a chance to chill out and relax? What do you do to chill out and relax?
So you will be surprised. Some people watching this will know. Periodically, I cannot say that I do this consistently, daily, or religiously. I simply don't have the time to do that. But first of all, I mean, I just like watching, well, obviously TV when I can, but movies, reading. But ultimately, and this is important really in light of the comments you've just made about stress and breathing and all those things, the classic Indian art of yoga.
Yeah, but that's how you have a yoga routine.
I do have, not a regular one, but I do. Everyone has, anyone that does yoga will have a routine of, you know, certain things that you do.
Fantastic. I'm glad to hear it. But I'm a bit more interested to know what books, what movies, what's the...
So like most people, I'm a subscriber to Netflix.
Yeah.
So it's not a case of whatever is on Netflix. No way. One of the things is, this is quite embarrassing actually, but one of the things, if I had more time, I would watch. You know, there are plenty of Hindi movies on there. You know, just every now and then, it's been a while, but they are just joyful to watch for all the reasons I don't need to explain to anybody, just good fun. And then, you know, just trying to find time to actually watch, you know, some series as well. So The Crown is going to be out next week, so I'll try and watch that. And books, there are so many, you know, some a little bit related to current affairs and, you know, the work that I do naturally. And you've got to remember as well that my work also involves keeping the country safe. So, you know, books around intelligence, security, all sorts, including thrillers that can be quite interesting as well. You know, just anything to sort of not do the day job, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, you touch upon a very important aspect there about keeping the country safe. And if we relate back to Diwali just real quick, the story of Diwali is about good defeating evil, light's triumph over darkness. If you had to choose one big or significant evil in the world that that could be defeated tomorrow, what would that be?
Well, I don't really have to think too hard about this, because as you'll appreciate, with the work that I do, I see some shocking things. I see some really awful and quite abhorrent things that, you know, take place too regularly. And I also see, you know, the worst in people in terms of their behaviours. And I feel very, very strongly, a lot of the work that I'm doing is around children and protecting children and keeping children safe. So we're here having this conversation online. You know, online's brilliant. What a great liberator. You know, what a fantastic way to connect people. But our children are at risk through online, you know, through some of the online harms that exist out there. In my day-to-day work, I see children being abused. I see the, you know, the most appalling horrors against the most vulnerable and the most helpless. And I actually think that is, you know, if there was one evil that, you know, I could literally just sort of zap away, take it away, and cast it aside, I think it would be everything to do with the abuse and the horrors that we see that are, you know, targeted and leveled at children. There are too many, they manifest in so many ways. I've just touched on online. I've touched on vulnerabilities on children, but when you see how in some parts of the world, girls are treated, you know, young children, young girls, etc., those are just appalling things that I just wish as a society and as a world, you know, we could do much more collectively. And we are doing that from a policy perspective, obviously, but that's where there is, you know, just so much more that can be done.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. I mean, it's very, very important. You represent an incredibly important office in our government, and you're doing an incredible job. And I think that it's an incredibly important job, and it'd be great for the entire country to support that and your efforts there. And I think that I wonder what can the Indian diaspora specifically, how could they help and support with these issues around childcare that you mentioned?
Yeah, well, I think we all can do this, you know, from a community perspective, but actually as people as well. There are some cultural issues, obviously, that are associated with some of these awful things that I've spoken about. Look at how some girls are treated in some parts of the world. You know, forced marriage, for example, child marriage, for example. You know, we see bonded labour, all sorts of things, the most appalling abuses that we see of children. Well, first of all, none of that is acceptable. And so we do have to speak out and we do have to stand up against those practices, no question about that at all. And then closer to home, we can all do much more just to protect and prevent, you know, our children from being at risk. Now, I think from a community perspective, we are very conscious of a lot of that. There is no question of that whatsoever. But also sharing that with our friends and with others. I've made the point about online harm, online abuse, being much more aware of the protective measures that we can all take and, you know, do to keep our children safe. At the other extremes, though, I see, you know, when I look at some of the crime that takes place as well, how children are being abused and children are being trafficked. Quite frankly, that is my job, you know, working with my colleagues in government, changing our laws, changing our legislation. We will continue to do that. And I very much hope that within the community and across the public in this country, there will be a lot of support for that type of activity and work that we are doing.
Fantastic. Well, just to bring it back to Diwali, Diwali, the festival, is traditionally seen as a time to seek greater prosperity in the year ahead. How do you think prosperity is best measured?
So that's a difficult question, because that's going to mean all sorts of things to everyone else. And you and I know too well that during Diwali, we see, you know, businesses take their books to the mandir and you know, all sorts of things when it comes to, you know, having a prosperous future. That term for, you know, any religion, New Year, etc., we wish each other well, and we all wish, you know, each other success and prosperity. I think prosperity means many different things, including, you know, being prosperous in your outlook, prosperous in your health and well-being. And I think that's more relevant now than ever before when you think about the challenges that we're all facing across society, across the world right now. And that's not something you can necessarily measure, because it means different things to different people. But I think right now we should all be grateful for the good health that we have, for actually the prosperity that we have around us. And I don't mean that in, you know, monetary terms. I mean that in terms of the enriched lives that we have, you know, with our friends, our families, our loved ones. Because no matter what, in good times and bad times, they are the people that, you know, keep us well, they keep us sane, they keep us grounded, they keep us happy. And those are the things that I think can, you know, really, they matter. They matter no matter who you are, no matter how wealthy or, you know, wealthy you are or poor you are, or whatever background you have. That is a common denominator. And I think that's one of the greatest levelers that we have.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Okay, so you spoke a little bit about using Zoom and digital platforms to celebrate Diwali this year. You're a family woman, and how will Diwali be celebrated in your household this year?
That's a great question. Because
I don't mean to pry too much into
No, you're being too nosy, really.
Yeah.
It's what I want to say.
It's my job today.
No, well, of course it is, of course. So that's a really good question, because it falls to me as the one that is the eldest, because I have a younger brother and a sister, to do the convening.
Right.
To do the big family convening, to actually make sure that we do all get together. And I'm about to announce that I have not done that yet, which is really remiss of me, and I do need to do that.
Are your family and your siblings quite forgiving, understanding of the position you hold?
Of course they are.
Or do they not cut you any slack at all?
No, they're all really good. They're really good.
Well, look, at least through Zoom.
On burden share, I think, you know, one of them could do a little bit more.
Well, okay, all right, we won't name names, but look, put it this way: at least through Zoom or Skype or whatever, you don't have to cook for everyone, eh?
There is that, but my mother would be very disappointed by that.
Right, I bet. Are you a bit of a cook then?
Yeah, I can cook. At times like Diwali, you know, that's why we all go home.
That was a very political answer. Are you a bit of a cook? Yeah, I can cook. I mean, beans on toast, cooking, isn't
No,
it?
I'm better than that. Come on.
Fine, fine. Well, look, Priti Patel, I'm very appreciative of your time. It's a real privilege. I know there's a lot of things going on in the world right now that are putting you and demanding your time and attention. And I'm very grateful that you've taken the time out to speak to us at iGlobal. I wish you and your family a fantastic Diwali, and wish you all the best in your work. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much, and happy Diwali to everyone. Happy Diwali to you as well. And it's been fantastic to speak to you. It really has.